I'm testing and comparing 5 of the top virtual mailbox providers on the market today. Getting a virtual address is probably one of the more underrated tools for privacy and security. Why? Because for individuals, not everybody needs to know your home address, and even for a small business, you don't have to give away your real office location. So, whether you're an individual who wants more privacy, a traveler who needs more permanent address, or a business that needs a better way to handle physical mail, it's worth taking a few minutes to understand how a virtual mailbox can help. In this video, I'm going to explain how to use a virtual mailbox. We're going to compare 5 of my favorite companies. And finally, I'm going to share the unique value proposition of each service to help you determine which one will be right for you. I've been using a virtual mailbox for over 8 years now, and the best way I know to describe this service is by comparing it to email. A virtual mailbox gives you a personal address that accepts mail on your behalf and then digitizes that mail so that you can access and organize it from anywhere in the world on a computer or a mobile device. I receive tax documents, packages, checks, and all other kinds of mail that I can have scanned, shredded, or forwarded to me anywhere that I want. Because I live internationally, this means that I can still have a US address, and as a remote business, I can even use this as my registered agent address. Obviously, for things like Amazon, it makes sense to still use a home address for deliveries, but for pretty much anything else I do, my virtual address is a legal way to send me mail. On the surface, it may not seem like there's much that differentiates these virtual address providers, but I've used them long enough and actually visited some virtual address locations in person to know that that is really not true. There's a lot that is different. So in this comparison, I'm going to cover some of the key features that I find most valuable and explain how that may affect you and your decision. Okay, so one of the first things you may be looking for when you go searching for a virtual address is a specific location, perhaps a certain country or a state or even a city. So when I show you this spread that includes iPostal 1 at 3,250 locations worldwide, down to virtual postmail that only has 5 addresses only in the US, it may seem like a no-brainer. But one of the most important things I learned when doing my research for virtual addresses is that these numbers are very deceiving. In many cases, you're comparing apples and oranges. The apples in this case are primary hub addresses, while the oranges are independent mail centers. Whenever you see a virtual address company that boasts thousands of addresses, these are actually independent UPS stores, strip mall mail centers, and co-working office spaces that have been contracted out by the virtual mailbox company to operate their service. The benefit here is the expanded list of address options to choose from, both domestically in the US as well as internationally. But as I've seen firsthand, the security and privacy standards for these independent mail centers varies wildly. I remember walking into one of those strip mall mail centers and seeing a table full of different packages and mail out in the open and far too easy to swipe. For a business or even a privacy-focused individual, I'm really not that comfortable with that. The alternative is a primary hub address that is owned and operated by the virtual address company. These are more expensive to run, but the security and privacy here is so much higher. Personally, this is what I use and recommend, but the choice is really up to you. So when I show you this list again, all right, but now split out into primary hub addresses and independent mail addresses, you can get a better picture of the differences. If having a specific location is most important to you, iPostal 1 and Anytime Mailbox obviously have the most to choose from. But if better security and privacy are your priority, then I suggest either post-scan mail or virtual post mail, or you can do traveling mailbox if you use their North Carolina address. In the same way that a virtual mailbox can help you hide your home address, a virtual private network, or VPN for short, can be used to mask your address on the internet. There are literally hundreds of VPN companies on the market right now, But the one that I use and recommend for the greatest level of privacy is ProtonVPN, who have graciously sponsored this week's video. Using ProtonVPN, you can mask your IP address, which can be used to track you and know your geographic location. The problem with most VPNs is that, similar to these virtual mailbox companies, they contract out their VPN server locations to data centers around the world that they don't have any control over. ProtonVPN, however, allows you to choose or even double hop through their secure core servers in Iceland, Switzerland, and Sweden, 3 countries in which the privacy laws are strong and Proton actually owns and operates the servers. You can download and start using ProtonVPN for free, one of the few free VPNs that are even worth trying. But the best option is to purchase a monthly or annual plan by going to allthingssecured.com/ProtonVPN. Now, after location, the next most important feature that most users don't understand is mail forwarding. Each of these virtual mailbox services offer some kind of mail forwarding, but the experience of how that's done can often be very different. For example, when I want to forward a package from my post-scan mail address, I'm given automatic shipping quotes from within my dashboard for the US Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, and DHL. On the other hand, with virtual post mail, I'm only given the option of the US Postal Service's first class or priority mail from within the dashboard. But if I want to use UPS or FedEx, I would have to submit a special request to get a quote and then accept that quote. It's honestly just a hassle. So there is a difference, and it's important that if you plan to forward a lot of mail and you want to compare that pricing, you need to know these differences. iPostal One and Traveling Mailbox offer all shipping options except DHL, and Anytime Mailbox just depends on the address location that you choose. Okay, let me quickly run through a number of other feature comparisons that you might want to know. For example, all of these services offer a dedicated mobile app to handle your mail on the go, except for virtual post mail, which their web app is mobile friendly, so they have that going for them. Virtual Post Mail and Traveling Mailbox both offer free mail shredding, which I really like, while the others charge you a small fee, sometimes depending on the address location. On the other hand, Virtual Post Mail and Traveling Mailbox are the only two that don't allow for local pickup, where you can pick up your mail in person if you like. The others allow for local pickup, but again, that often comes with a fee, and that all depends on the specific location. Each one of these services allow for unlimited cloud storage of your digital mail, and you can have multiple recipients for each mailbox. Finally, all services except for post-scan mail provide a check deposit feature. But in my experience, this is quite unnecessary at this point. I've had Chase Bank tell me that they no longer accept check deposit via mail. I don't know about any other banks, but I've had no problems doing remote check deposit with a scan of the check using the bank's mobile app. So again, this whole check deposit feature is something that I think is becoming pointless. So that's the features. But to finish this off, I want to distill it all down into a single greatest value proposition for each service. What's that one thing that makes each service better than the other? For iPostal One and Anytime Mailbox, it really just boils down to choice of location. They have thousands of locations that span across so many different countries. There's bound to be one located where you need it. The difference here is that iPostal One has standard features and pricing, whereas Anytime Mailbox gives more autonomy to the individual address providers, which means that each location can offer different features and different pricing. The complete opposite of these is Virtual Post Mail, whose value proposition is much greater depth and control over a much smaller number of locations. This means that they offer the highest level of security, both on the physical and digital side of things, and they can also provide services such as True Lease, which can give your business a proof of address, or True Residence, which is a real US residential location and not just a mail center. These are higher cost services that have very unique use cases, but they're also ones that I haven't found with any other company. Post-scan mail, which is one that I've used for a few years, is a happy medium between these three, offering both primary hub addresses that I like and independent mail addresses if you need a choice to choose from, at one of the best rates of $10 a month, at least as I'm recording this. And finally, I've also been using Traveling Mailbox for one of my addresses for years, and their service has been really easy to use with a very generous page scan allowance. So what's important to you? Whether it's more scans, free shredding, a dedicated mobile app, or a company-controlled secure location, you should now have a good idea which virtual address service would work best for you. Now, I want to point out none of these companies have paid to be a part of this list. I'm even excluding some major companies like Earth Class Mail, which was bought by LegalZoom, because their service is frankly overpriced and subpar in my opinion. Now, I'm gonna have links to special deals for each of these services in the description below, which, in full disclosure, are affiliate links, meaning that I may receive a commission if you choose to use them. Hopefully, this video has been helpful enough to be worth that trade though, and if you wanna see me compare secure email providers or password managers next, you can watch either of those videos here.